today we have Brandon Scheid with us. Ex-pro kiteboarder, turned into paraglider, and now he's hooked on the Parawing.
Yet again being water sports, and yet again have a new thing be invented. All the right people are doing this. The light bulb went off. It's like bing, up, two, up, now, up, yep, up.
You had a very bad accident in paragliding that completely changed your life.
That was bad. I had to be airlifted. I was in a coma for a while. I found out she was pregnant. When I woke up from the coma, it was a whole crazy life situation. But we shot a documentary during that.
Did paragliding help you understand the Parawing in a different way?
My first sessions were shockers.
Yeah, let's talk about that, man.
Just make it super easy. If you want to succeed, set yourself up for success. And you're going to get rolled over on your sup board, and you're going to have to like get your butt kicked and all this stuff, but you're going to probably get up if you have power.
What do you feel we're still missing in terms of gear?
In this making stowing easier, maybe there's a way I could make it less responsive. I want a clean bar. I don't like crap on my bar.
I don't even like the B lines on the bar.
I agree. I'm a 200-pound, 205-pound. I ride a 65-liter board in 20 to 40 in the gorge. I'm loading this thing the F up, drag them across the asphalt.
They get so trashed.
Worked. The only thing that's yet to be figured out is
Welcome to the Lab Rat for the podcast. My name is Dan, and today we have Brandon Scheid with us. Brandon is ex-pro kiteboarder, turned into paraglider. Brendan has, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful stories of overcoming challenges, and man, now he's hooked on the Parawing, which is awesome to see. Welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing well, man. A little bit rushed from work today, but made it back on time for this, which I'm happy about. And
yeah, I was just I was cruising today. I went the river. As you know, you've been to Hood River. It's a beautiful place. So I spent some time on the river today. It had not windy. I was fishing, but other than that, I've just been looking forward to having a conversation, seeing if we can enlighten people as to this wonderful, weird world that we have developing in front of our eyes. It's kind of an interesting time to yet again be in water sports, and yet again have a new thing be invented, and yet again have, like, it's just kind of like crazy. I don't know.
Frothalicious is what I think.
Yeah. I am actually, I did not wear this on purpose. It's really crazy. I am wearing this Froth Lord shirt, and I'm wearing this over Froth Namotu hat. Oh my gosh, I look like
I think it fits the bill.
I look like a psychopath. Oh my goodness.
It definitely fits the bill because, man, the froth level in Hood around Parawinging was just so cool to see. I have a small crew here that's into it, but obviously it's just taken over, man. This summer in Hood was just off the hook.
Yeah, so I had a, what do you want to call it, a premonition? I don't really know. So I had the accident. We can get into that later. But that was right when I came out of that. I was pretty convinced that the guy that was doing the Sam Reynolds, right?
Sam Reynolds,
doing the Maui 5.0, is it? Hawaii 5.0?
Yep.
So 5.0. He started doing the single surface thing that didn't look like it could go upwind, but it could get you up. And he was like riding kind of a small, wider board. And coming out of the accident, I had mania. I was like an insane person. And I was absolutely convinced that thing is going to be modded and go upwind. So I had started like measuring and making some patterns. I actually some really early samples when I was working at Nash, and they were like, okay, maybe make something. And I made some really bad stuff, but
that's so cool.
And then Drexler came out with his, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then a bunch of people got him in Hood River, the first versions, and they were like riding them on the easterlies in the fall. And like, it was kind of weird. And like, they weren't really selling it too much. They weren't going upwind that easily. It was kind of like a soft hit. And then over the winter, everyone like practiced up in Baja, did a bunch of downwind laps. And I saw that this winter when I was there, and I was like, this is like going, all the right people are doing this, and all those people talk a lot and get everyone really excited. And like, so I kind of had this premonition that I was like, oh man, I think it's going to go absolutely Richter this spring in Hood River. And no one was really doing it at that point that much. Certainly not staying upwind. Like they're doing laps, maybe tunnel 4 laps or whatever. And man, it's just like the light bulb went off. It's like bing, up, two, up, now, up, yep. Everyone's kind of getting after it because it just, the spot is really conducive, I think, to the new subset of the sport, niche of a niche. I don't know.
It is, man. But I think also you being a kiteboarder, you saw that and you're like, I could do that. There's no issues. That's a little kite. I know how to fly. You knew how to fly that thing before you touched it. And a lot of people are still struggling with that, coming from winging, coming from, maybe just paddling, not being exposed to wind sports with a power source. I think that's the next challenge for us to try to provide some information, try to get them to understand a little bit more about the Parawing, which we will in this podcast with you. But before we go into that, let's talk about your history, man. You have a rich history in board sports, pro kiteboarder for, a long time, went into paragliding. You had a very bad accident in paragliding that completely changed your life. And I follow that through a common friend of ours, you and Jaspin. He was, supporting you as much as he could. And I was just following that story and being, oh my God. And now you're back on the water. You're back on the water with a Parawing, which is a fusion of paragliding and kiteboarding in a way, which I think is just a beautiful story. So why don't you take us through your professional career and how you got into foiling from the beginning?
Oh man, heavy band. Okay,
yeah,
so
it's we're gonna get deep here, people.
Grew up in the '90s, Midwest in Michigan. Board sports like skateboards, no surfing yet, really, because that wasn't happening in the Great Lakes. Maybe in the core lord status, but that wasn't really a thing that I was exposed to as a kid. Little bit of wakeboarding, not that much. Some tubing, some water sports, but basically like snowboarding and skateboarding, which is concrete and ice. Had an opportunity to do some kite flying as a little kid. I was like a little nerd, kind of like a nerdy kid, played with yo-yos and like kites and stuff. And there was a kite festival in our community. And I was flying kites as a kid, like little trainer kites and what do you call like deltas, like the little triangle ones that have two handles where you like loop them and fly them around with the tail, or the revolutions with the quad line. You can like dance that. You can like dance them. They do it to music. It's like really nerdy, but it's kind of cool. We used to go to the kite festival once a year and at the Grand Haven, which is where Matt Kite is, actually a big retailer in the United States. Crazy. I used to full circle moment. But I got a trainer kite from them. I was ripping the trainer kite with my skateboard, my ice skates, my snowboard across the grass on my chest. Like, man, honestly, it had handles, like just 2 loop handles. I was like body dragging with it. We had no idea. This was like, I don't know, man. This was like late 90s. So like windsurfing was, my dad's friend was a windsurfer. So he was kind of exposed to wind culture, but my dad doesn't swim. I swam a lot as a kid, but like we weren't really exposed to that. And then I got an opportunity to do a little bit of snow kiting and with an inflatable kite that I bought off a lady who was trying to do it with an ice sled. Like they sit in like a sled car with ice blades, and I don't know. She decided she was going to try it. She's kind of old. She like I think she got her butt kicked with the kite, and she was like, I need to get rid of these things. I bought it for $200. I went snow kiting. I was like, this is sick. Sent my parents, they go to Cape Hatteras. That was just kind of like a Midwestern spot you could go to. They went down there to go grab a board. I was like, get me some gear. I want to ride in the summer. I just snow kited. I was like, this is sick. I'm like 17. I was psyching. They got me a board, and my mom just happened to walk into Reel before Reel was like a mega store. Perfect. And they were like, hey, do you want to, maybe my son's in between summer, is there any jobs for him or whatever? And there happened to be like a grounds maintenance job, like picking up cigarette butts and like building stuff. And like, so I called them like that day, applied. 2 weeks later, I drove down to Cape Hatteras, 16 hours.
How good.
Sent it, and then immersed myself in the world of wind and water sports. Kiteboarding was like this, just like I took right to it. I already knew how to flip and spin. I did lots of trampoline stuff as a kid. I had a trampoline as a kid. It was water, way less scary than concrete and ice, and like, so I was just like, It was
Full send.
so on. And then that accelerated rather quick. I did a summer. I went home. All I could think about was kiteboarding. I was like, oh my God, kiteboarding. Went back to Rio, started coaching, got better at kiteboarding, started doing some cool tricks, entered some contests, won some contests, started doing some photo shoots, got sponsored by a kiteboarding brand, started doing like media content, won a bunch more contests. And primarily in the park discipline. So Cape Hatteras was a little bit at the epicenter of that, like Andre and Moy and all these wind sports legends of kiteboarding. They used to hit rails. They wanted to be like wakeboard bros and like hit rails. And so that's cool for me. I like hitting rails. I was a
100%.
skateboarder. So Cape Hatteras is like, they had a 6 slider park and the contest had sliders. And I was like, that's cool. I'll do that. And so I did that for a while and it was really, really fun. During that time, I broke my metatarsal, which is like this in your hand. So I was kiteboarding in Brazil in shallow water. I got my finger, like I did a Mob 5 and landed and slapped the water and it was shallow. And I like snagged this finger and like snapped this bone in my hand. And I was like, uh-oh, that sucks. It really wasn't displaced or anything, but it really affects your grip strength, like your ability to hold. And I was like into like wake style, unhooked, like proper kiteboarding. I want to be powerful. And we had booked a trip to Maui and I was like, oh man, we're going to go to pro pool and like, not even gonna be able to do anything. This sucks. And I just happened to see this video at the time by the company Haru. And it was like, it was called like, So You Think You Can Fly or something. It was like one of their original hydrofoiling videos. It was this beautiful, it was kind of artsy film. This guy just hydrofoiling around. It was really cool. And I was just like, man, I need a hydrofoil. Like, I think I can't hold on to things. It's going to be light. It's going to be sick. This is back in the day when you could get Carafino hydrofoils, I think, were on the market. And that was kind of it. There's like some other Moses. You could back order some Moses ones that would never show up. And I was working at the time for Liquid Force, the kiteboarding brand. And so I was like, cool, I'm going to get like a little wake skate from Liquid Force. I'm like a pro kiteboarder. I don't make any money. I'm going to get a wake skate and I'm going to get a hydrofoil and I'm going to learn to hydrofoil. And so I called up Nick at Lyft and I was like, Nick, I need a hydrofoil. And he's like, I'm like, I don't have any money and I'm like a pro kiteboarder. Please help me. And he sold me one, I think, for $900. And I was like, what am I buying? And it was like, I told him I wanted something that wouldn't like get too easy. So I bought like a race foil or something. God. It was so crazy. And we mounted it, me and my dad mounted it to a wake skate. We took it to Maui, me and Sleazy, Jason Slezak, and my friend Julian, and ultimately our brand manager, Gary Siskar, who works at Ride Engine now, spent the winter falling. My wife learned it the same winter, like spent the winter falling and just like getting our butts kicked on the light wind days in Maui. And we all got up and got rides and we were blown away at like how awesome it feels. One, how efficient it is and how light for us. It was a light wind savior, like no more getting skunked days. And we were like, my mind was blown. We were hydrofoiling a bunch. It was so fun. And we were going back to Oregon and we were like, what are we going to do? Let's order some foils. Like we're going to buy them. We're ready. We could not even buy them. Like they were so like hard to find. So at Liquid Force, we were like, screw this. We're going to make some. So we made the aluminum extruded mast and the foil fish, which was like, I think one of the first production aluminum extruded foils that ever existed. And it like kind of blew up. And that went really well for Liquid Force, and Slingshot made their situation. And then Cabrina got in, and like all the wind sports brands started getting in. And then all of a sudden the arms race began, and now F1's in. Then like, oh, now we're at where we are today. And it's just kind of insane. So I've been hydrofoiling since like 2011 or something like that.
Amazing.
A really long time. And I just love hydrofoiling. And then as winging was applied, because it's possible because of the hydrofoil, I was like, oh yeah, cool. I like that. I like hydrofoiling. I'm into this. Almost immediately I was like really into winging right out of the gate. And then when I saw the Parawinging, same thing. I had mania. I was like convinced. It's like, everyone's got to be Parawing. We need one immediately. And lo and behold, everyone's Parawinging, and we needed one immediately.
Yeah.
So that kind of sums up how I got into kiteboarding, my pro kiteboarding career, and why I'm obsessed with foiling. It's like a powder day every day. You don't have to like share with any, like there is no like selfishness. You can share with everybody. It's pretty special, and I encourage everybody that it's a special time in wind and water sports, whether you wake foil, whether you surf or you wind sport. The access that you can get for like $1,000 to the ability to glide and float around the water is unbelievable. It's like such a weird time in humanity that we pay to just glide around on water. But like, hey, if you can do it, do it. It's phenomenal. It's super fun, and it's like, yeah, the places that I've gone on the hydrofoil is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it for me, it was a very similar thing. Once I got on it, I couldn't get off it, and I was just completely, just my head couldn't just think about anything else. I was just kite foiling, and Ewan, every time he came back, every summer he came back, he taught me something different. It was kite foiling, and then he taught me winging, and then downwinding. He didn't come that summer for some reason, and then, I mean, we've just been involved, and I would just been inheriting his gear from year to year, and learning these new things. In that story, there is a paragliding section there that I want to touch on.
So
when did that happen? Like, where and why does everyone that I think reaches a certain level in sport start paragliding? Because all the people that I know that paraglide, they're all really good at other things. And then they start paragliding. I'm like, dude, that's kind of dangerous, but they love it.
Yeah. So let's break that down into a couple things. So yeah, I, during all of this time in my career as a professional kiteboarder, I always needed like a side thing, right? It's not windy all the time, even though I moved to the gorge where it's windy a lot of the time. I picked up mountain biking pretty quickly, moving to the gorge. That made perfect sense. I slapped the earth a bunch of times because your margin of like, I can crash, or like, hey, I can crash. I can go over my bars, like hitting jumps and stuff. I wanted to like hit big jumps and be shred. And then, I just slapped the earth a couple times and was like, oh yeah, that hurts. I remember that when I was a kid, concrete and all this stuff hurts. I already had broken my leg skateboarding a long time ago. So I had to remember some things. So, I was looking for a side hustle here in the gorge, like something that I could do that scratched the itch, for like exercise, outdoors, flow state. We can talk about that as much as you want, because I think foiling also gets us to that place.
Yep.
And I think that's deep down what you're addicted to, not the adrenaline rush, not the I'm an adrenaline junkie. I think it's this other brain state, and we can, I read a ton about it in my recovery. And so I was looking for a mainline flow state, and we have elevation here in the gorge, and we have no wind days. And so I kind of went and learned how to paraglide, because I wanted to, in my mind, I was like, okay, I want to be a really great pilot. I want to be a great pilot later in my life. I wanted to get into paragliding for quite some time. I just had been pumping the brakes. And then I was like, well, shit, to be a great pilot, I need to like get involved and get like thousands of hours in the air to become like a great pilot. At this time, I'm like thinking I'm going to get into paragliding. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go learn to do that. And then I was like, oh man, no, what I really want to do is hike and fly, which is like speed flying. So you hike up a hill with a small canopy and you fly down. Immediate flow state, like super high operations, like super fun, super high adrenaline. It's like the crack cocaine of air sports. It's so insane. And so I got into that because it worked well in the no wind days, and like I could go hike in the morning before work, and like, I don't know, it's just kind of like this crazy thing. And with those sports, there's just margins are just like really narrow. And so I had an accident in November of 2023. Right after Thanksgiving. I was flying a line that I fly that I was like pretty regular, which is part of the reason why you get used to doing the same thing. Supposedly I don't have memory. There's actually video recording of the incident, and we can talk about how that all integrates in. But I don't remember much, but basically we flew. I made some critical errors. I avoided hitting the ground, but it's right on the sheer edge of a cliff. So I avoided hitting the cliff by going here, but then my wing hit the cliff. And so I kind of like fell off the cliff into a big scree field. So that was bad. I had to be airlifted. I was in a coma for a while. I had to relearn how to walk. I broke my back and my hips and my face. And like, man, there's so many bad things that I did from that. But the brain injury was the hardest one, and that's still kind of like I'm still kind of dealing with that, honestly. Almost 2 years. Like it's like a
Mm-hmm.
20 months or something, 22 months or something. So yeah, it was freaking crazy. And I'm actually like documented the whole thing because I had we can talk about brain injuries and brain safety and like crazy brain health stuff. And I actually was like had mania for like 6 months following the accident, maybe 7 months, and I was having the best time ever. Everyone hated like I was like really hard for my family and my wife and my friends, and like but we shot a documentary during that. I like somehow got someone to like point a camera at me, and we filmed the documentary. My wife was pregnant at the time. We like found out she was pregnant when I
Mm-hmm.
woke up from the coma. It's like this whole crazy life situation that we're going through, and so we filmed the whole thing. It's called Windfall. There's a trailer we can like plug on the thing. It's super
Absolutely.
interesting. Life experience. I don't think I'd change it. Honestly, I'd let it all happen again because it's just been like such a powerful blessing. Obviously, if I was in a wheelchair or like
Mm.
super impacted, maybe I would not say that. And it seems facetious to say stuff like that. But like the way the cards kind of rolled out, I'm really grateful that it all happened the way it did. And now I don't speed fly. I don't paraglide anymore. Hard lesson to learn, but had to learn it somehow.
Mm.
Um,
Dude,
so
I
that
like,
sums it all up. If you have any more questions, I'm feel free to like dig in there.
yeah, I'm always curious to understand, like, when someone that's performing at the level that you were performing at sports, and, being active and physical is a big part of your life. When you go
Mm.
through something like that, that's really physically debilitating and you can't get access to those things, how do you dig yourself out of that? What what got you that energy to say, I'm going to do the physio, I'm going to get better?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that I had going for me. One, I told you that I was suffering from like mania,
Mm,
which is like a mental condition where you're like really really on. I would compare it. I won't lie, I've done my fair share of some of the party drugs in my life. It was like I was on party drugs all day, every day. I was like a crazy person. And I don't say that in like a negative way. I don't want to label myself a crazy person or say when you have mania, you are crazy. Like, I don't want to offend
mhm,
anybody, but like I was turned on. I was like
right.
telling people, I think Jesus has a brain injury. I was like going into stores because I know you can't kick someone out of a store, a customer. And I'd go into like a rock store and I just like would be in there for my wife would have to come find me and be like, has he been bothering you? And she's like, no, we've been having so much fun. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I am I'm a liability. And so that was so motivating for me. I was just like full on. The right side of my brain was off.
Mhm,
So I had no like empathy and like some of the bummer things for other people. But that also means I have no ability to like be sad. I couldn't really be happy either, unfortunately, but I could like logically the left side of my brain was really on and like doubling the effort for everybody. So
wow.
he was very goals oriented, very on, very here's how you get to there's no time for like bitching and moaning, just like get to
Mhm,
work and just do the thing. And also as a professional athlete, I know how to train for things. Like I know how to set regiment goals, like to achieve trick goals, to achieve like
mhm,
things. So like all I had to do was kind of point the crazy guy in the right direction, and the results just came through. So I think I did a couple things that were really impactful that not everyone might have access to. I did some hyperbaric chamber. I did like 60 hours of hyperbaric chamber therapy, which can shown to be really helpful. I did some um, crazy brain stuff where you like watch screens and try to keep them going like on with your brain,
mhm,
but you don't really know how. And it's like kind of this weird thing. It like trains your brain to kind of like come back online. So a lot of vestibular stuff, a lot of like get your heart rate up really high, see what that does for your dizziness.
mhm.
Honestly, foiling, dude. You want to learn how to balance again? Your balance is messed up. Try to learn how to foil again. It's like in some ways it made me so like relatable back to the user. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm such a kook. I don't want to say kook because that's a bad word. That's like a negative dissociation, but like I was so back at the beginner. I had to ride a 140-liter board. I couldn't balance. Like I was right back on the beginner stage.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun. I kind of loved it.
Did foiling, well, foiling would have been, a godsend for you because it's low impact. Like it is balance. How did that help you in your recovery?
Oh, immensely. One, it gave me like something to do that was joyous. When they cleared me to like go train in the pool, like inside,
Mm.
I just love water. I've been in water for so long. I needed the water. So that was cool. And then once all my bones were healed and like I was kind of cleared to like do some more physical stuff, getting back on the water and like trying to achieve those goals via the sport of winging.
Hmm.
Like you said, low impact. Yeah, no kiteboarding. I didn't kiteboard for quite a while again. And so yeah, it was a godsend. Like something to focus on, something to get joyous on, work on my balance, push myself. Like, yeah, it was really, really, really impactful in my recovery journey for sure.
That's awesome, man. And now with this new discipline that we, have been gifted, parawinging, it kind of brings paragliding, kiteboarding, and foiling all into this one incredible sport that we're all, mega frothing on. Did paragliding help you understand the parawing in a different way? Which of these sports are you drawing the most from for parawinging?
Well, I think first and foremost is going to be the skills that I learned via kite foiling was my first foil sport. So like
Hmm.
I can't say that there's a deviation from that. And I think in a fun little way, parawing feels more like kite foiling than winging because you're
Hmm.
flying this little thing and you're like hooked into it kind of more like a kite. It's like a great homage to kiteboarding. It's so fun. Obviously the winging for the development of or you could say downwind to the development of the riding of the swell. So I'm drawing on my skills from winging that I developed by riding here in the gorge and abroad. Um, the paragliding thing is kind of crazy. So when you are quote unquote like kiting a paraglider is what they call it when you're
Hmm.
on the ground flying your paraglider in the air, but you're not in the air flying.
Hmm.
You're kiting on launch or you kite it like up a hill to get ready to launch. The controls of that, when you hold it a certain way, where you hold the A's and the brakes and the D's in one, we can talk about terms, but A's are the top right, the
Hmm.
front line's the front of the wing, the D's are the back. When you kind of hold those, you kind of do this, you're kind of pulling back and forth. So the control of the surface like that is a little bit more like the control of the Parawing, obviously, because it's a similar structure.
Hmm.
So I think you get a little bit of paragliding in there, just a tiny bit. I think the name is sometimes deceiving in that they're like, you're doing what? You're parafoiling. It's just that they're similar in structure to the build of a parawing or a
Yeah.
paraglider, right? It's not that it really is using the same nature. It's just like using the same technology, kind of.
Hmm. Gotcha. The yeah, and I always love to hear about that first time that you kind of saw something that resembled a parawing or you knew you got the bug. You mentioned Sam Reynolds. He was really the first person that created something that visually is very close to what we have today. Like the functionality is different. But what was it about the parawing when you saw it that you're like, yes, that's it. I want to do that. And what attracted you to it?
Well, the gorge has been an experimentation hub for the like emergence of the maybe I don't want to say winging, that's a Maui as well, but maybe a little bit of France as well. But like we have our hand in that. And so I would argue that there's also a hand in some of the downwind foiling exploration. And
Hmm.
so when you have those two worlds overlapping, wind and downwind, you started to see people looking for solutions to the paddle game.
Yep.
So like my friend Kai, she's no one you've ever heard of, but she was using like a trainer kite with no, like the bar right on the bridles.
Mm.
Random. Okay.
Mhm.
Cynthia, she was using like a drogue chute or something for
Mhm.
the spinny drogue chute for a little while. So I think there's been some exploration in the space early that I was exposed to that I was like, hey, there could be something in this space, whether it's an E assist, like foil drive, or
Yep.
a wind assist, like what does that look like? And I think that's been something in my wheelhouse for a while, thinking about products and product design. I worked in product design at Slingshot. I worked
Mhm.
as well at Nash. So I'm kind of always been thinking about that kind of stuff. So that's been on the front of the radar. But the first time I think I actually saw it work was when the BRMs were working here in person. I was kind of like, okay, yeah, that's cool. I had made a couple drag bags, as I was calling them at the time, which is like more like Sam Reynolds, is just like a source of drag to get up. And
Just
then I'll
downwind pull.
figure out the upwind. Like we'll figure out the upwind. From there it progressed forward into like what you'd see now on the water. And I kind of felt like I was exploring this space before even the BRM announcement. So like he launched his in like August of 24, right? I was exploring the space in like May into July, kind of like before my son was born. Even later, after the BRM was out, I was still kind of working at Nash at the time, and I was still kind of in the space of the Parawing world. So my first sessions were shockers.
Yeah, let's talk about that, man. What board
gosh.
were you using? What foil were you trying to make work, and how did that experience go?
I was using a Nash downwind hover, I want to say. It's like a 20 plus inch wide, really stable, because at the time I couldn't really balance, so I needed to ride a board that was like really stable. So thankfully I spent all spring and summer riding like a big sup board when I was winging, because I couldn't take the loading through my back and I couldn't do the balance. So I was already trained up. I already knew how to ride one. I don't know if those people that are like looking at winging kind of a downwind sup style board, they're very different in how they behave than a short kind of like 40-liter squat board or a 60-liter squat board. They're very different. There's a lot of water line. They kind of get pushed around. They're easy to roll over on because they have I had gone through that learning progression kind of while I was learning to wing. And so coming over was pretty easy. I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to ride this big board. I was riding a pretty big foil. I think bigger, 1280 or something like that, maybe 1400, just something really big and easy. And then the Parawings I was using at the time were just like, so I don't know, just hold on for dear life, see if you can go upwind. We were starting to get them to go upwind, so that was like a good point. And then I started using, the first one I used was like the legit one, with some prototype samples for Nash and their version of the Morph, and then a few versions of some other prototypes from Slingshot, which is coming out soon. I'm sure they're going to show it at AWSI. And then I got some Ozones, and then it was off to the races.
Yeah, sick, man. I always love to hear about people's first.
It was a full shocker, like full shocker, like try to get up, do everything you can to pump it, and then once you're up, try to hold on to the thing. Because at the time we were using like tubes of PVC to so that you could like drill holes and mount like stuff instead of wrapping bridles around tiny carbon tubes or something. It's before everything was like starting to come on the handles, and like man, it's just like shocker, just like backyard like garbage garage tech stuff, and just like struggling. It's so frustrating. But yeah, once you can like go upwind, you're stoked. You can shred.
Yeah, and I think that's when in most sports, that's when you start to really have a session. You're not just struggling. You're not just doing walks of shame or whatever they are. You're getting out. You're doing an hour. You're coming back, and then the progression just goes. It skyrockets, and every time you get on the water,
don't sell the dream too hard. I still have sessions where I float more than I foil, which is my rating for success when I parawing. Float to foil.
Float to foil ratio.
Man, it's got to be 60-40 to be having a good session.
Yeah.
So I'm still floating a lot, to be honest with you.
Is that because you're trying to like downscale your equipment, or just the conditions, or what's
conditions, holes, like just choosing the wrong sport to do. I think parawinging fits a certain niche for me, and so like it's just choosing it when I maybe should have chosen another vehicle for water use.
I also feel like people should hear and just get your thoughts on what condition and what types of wind range is appropriate to actually consider parawinging. I myself, like if it's 12 knots, I'm not parawinging. And I see people on 5 meters, 6 meters, like really trying it. And I think it's doable. And maybe that's all they have. And if that's all there was available for me, I might have been trying it as well. But what are the conditions that you look at a day and you're like, yep, parawinging day today?
Yeah, I think, what do you want to talk knots? Make it universal?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
People understand
so
knots.
like 20 to 30 knots, I'm on, like for sure, no question. So the first Parawing I got was a 3 meter. But besides that, all the prototype like garbage ones I'd ride, I just go out lit because that's at least I'm getting up. I'm getting up and I'm gonna try to go upwind, see if it will depower it. At this time, I'm trying to work on like, yeah, okay, how much versus is it pull me versus how depowerable is it to go upwind? So I just started strong all the time. If it's lighter than that in the beginning, I would just be like, man, it's not worth it. I'm just going to regular wing. I have efficiency on the sup board. I can ride a 4. That's or even a 3.5 when I was riding the 125-liter sup board. Like 3.5 was like my biggest wing. It was great. I was never lit. It was wonderful. So I think that 20 to 30 is like a really good start for me, especially here in the gorge, because by then with those wind speeds, you're seeing some water bump. And that's the swell to ride. Honestly, I don't know. This is for not maybe, like you said, maybe some people just have what they have. 12 knots is all they have. They want to get out in the water. They want to have access to the fun that the hydrofoil can give you. They don't want to pump up gear. They don't want to ride a 6-meter inflatable wing. I'm not exactly sure why people want to scratch the itch of light wind parawinging. But for me, if you can't ride a bump and put it away and kind of get away from it, the wing, modern day regular wing is not that in the way when you're flagging on the nose handle. Therefore, if you're not going to be able to put the parawing away, you should just regular wing. Like if you can't ride swell, you can't really like, if you're just going to be tooling around in flat water, unless there's a restriction for inflatable, like for some reason you can't wing or you're not allowed to, or it's you didn't bring your pump and you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna parawing. And maybe for certain people, the light wind aspect of just getting up and having this like beautiful thing that you can like just like not pump and this beautiful flying structure, and it just like maybe there's more to it than I understand. But for me, it's about riding the hydrofoil on the swell. It's a vehicle to replace the downwind sup. It's a big thing here, downwind sup. When I was coming out of my accident, dude, there was no way I was downwind supping. I was trying so hard and I was just getting so frustrating, not having very much success. So then I got a different board. Then I was having not that much. I got up a couple times. I was like, man, this is not going to work for me. And then at that point, the Parawings are available. And I was like, dude, I'm so Parawing. Screw this. I'm going to ride my 60-liter board. I'm over this.
I love that. And look, even today, like, because I went also through that journey of, from kite foiling to proning to winging and sup downwinding, like I own those boards. So today, if it's a light wind day, I can go out on a downwind board and I can see people enjoying mowing the lawn, because there's always lawnmowers in every sport. And I'm not, in not a derogatory way in any way. It's just people who like to go out, spend an hour in the water. They get their fix from just sailing, and sailing for them is enough. And for me, the Parawing is, very similar to how you see it. I love the Parawing when it's in my pouch.
Yeah.
That's where it shines, when it's tucked into that little pouch and you're doing what you want to do, be it in the waves or in a downwinding scenario. But let's get back to like those people that are starting to consider the sport, get into the sport. What can they expect from, those first initial sessions?
Yeah.
So we can break it down into like, what are you going to be learning in those initial sessions? Yeah.
That's really easy. There's kind of a couple phases. So phase 1 is going to be called, let's say, ground school, ground control, ground time, cat's crochet, whatever you want to call it. So you need to go to a spot where the wind is somewhat clean, clear, and actually like kind of strong a little bit. It's easier if it's strong. I see people trying to learn to fly their Parawings when it's like a no wind day at the beach. They're like, I'm gonna get out this Parawing, and they're like, it's not flying. You're like, well, there's no freaking wind. So go to somewhere where the wind is clean and smooth and like kind of nice, and get the thing out. Like it's not gonna rip you across the beach unless it's blowing 50 knots, and you're gonna know not to get the thing out of the bag, right? So just with any wind sport safety, as usual, know what's upwind and downwind. Make sure you're not upwind of anything that can get you in trouble, aka like I think of children. I think of like I let go of my Parawing and it flew into some power lines, stuff like that, right? If you're new and you are concerned about your ability to hold on to the Parawing, it's very simple to rig like a wrist leash. If you're from the sport of winging, you take a winging wrist leash, you put it on the rears so that when you let go of the Parawing, it just kills it. It like stalls it immediately. Okay, you might get a tangle or something, but it's great. You want to give it to a child, like. Yeah, man, I have some friends, kids are 3 years old. They can hold on to stuff like, and I just put the leash on them, right? They fly my little 1.7. They have a great time. It's so rad. Yeah. So you're going to want to make sure you have clean, clear, open space and nothing downwind of you, and you have some good wind. Get your freaking wing out. I would recommend you learn how to fly it, like hold it on the edge of the wind window, hold it above, hold it on the other edge. I'd recommend that you find the stall point of your wing. Where do your hands want to be to like hold the wing in like a good position? You're going to want to practice some stowing, even though that's not probably going to happen in your first session. Maybe not. Maybe depends on how good you are and like where your foil level skills and everything comes in. But I don't think a lot of people are getting the clean stows first session. So you're going to choose either the rear line stow, which is a stall stow, or an A-line pull, which is another version that works. And you're going to practice that a couple times so you're not confused, because you have to do this ideally when you're on foil. You're like on a wave riding the foil and you're like, hey, get everything right, I'm going to put this thing away. It's just like if you learned a kiteboard, you can fly the kite, you're sick, you're like, I can fly the kite, and they're like, here's the board, and you're like, oh shit, I can't fly the kite anymore. Two things at once is hard. Foiling while you're like stuffing and dealing with line management is hard. It's good to put them away in like a good clean manner so that when you get it back out in, like, let's say your bump runs out or you just want to get it back out again, you're not cat's cradling for like 20 minutes. Then your float to foil ratio goes way the south. If you're cat's cradling. So I think you can do all that on your ground control. Like, get the thing comfortable, maybe do some stows, get comfortable with where the stall points are, get comfortable with putting the thing away, launching it. I recommend people also, I guess you could do it in this phase, but launching the Parawing out of the water. You'd think you just grab all the lines and pick it up, but then you pick up like a bag of 10 pounds of water. Yeah, so
you quickly realize it's not going to work.
Learning that you can relaunch the Parawing by grabbing the leading edge, like, let's say not quite a meter apart, but let's say like half a meter apart. You can open the leading edge. The bridle lines like come off your board and out of this space, and you can let it go and it like launches instead of like trying to throw the thing in the air. Everyone thinks they want to just like throw this thing in the air and it's going to magically open. You kind of have to like help it open. So those are kind of things that you'd like to do in the beginning. And that'd be your first go. If you're ready after that, you want to go in the water, I would recommend you start on a larger leaderage board. That does not mean a giant wide 150 school wing board. That's going to go so slow. It's going to be really hard to build the necessary speed to like break and come off the water. So you're looking at big mid-length boards or downwind stops. Let's be honest. You were in the space of riding waves. You're probably going to have some access to maybe one of these, and it's going to help your learning journey immensely to be able to just stand up in the water with the thing as a kind of counterbalance. And you don't have to do like get to your knees. There's power in the Parawing. You know, like the water starting technique as you get on smaller and smaller equipment gets like more rapid, more quick, more, you need to be on it. And so like with a big board, you can just kind of putz around like, I think I'm going to get it. And, you know, they're efficient. The water line comes off. You want to ride a pretty big foil for your size. You're not going to ride your 700 square centimeter super blade yet. You're probably going to start on like 1,000 or maybe even a 1,200. Just make it super easy. If you want to succeed, set yourself up for success. Like pick a day that has reasonably strong wind. It doesn't need to be gale force, but like you'd like some white caps, like 15 knots, let's say, and up. 18 knots would be better. It's going to be easier. Select a Parawing that is appropriately sized and somewhat power on the powered side. In 18 knots, I'd probably ride my 3.6, if not maybe a little bit bigger if I'm riding a small board. So you can go a little stronger on the power. It's going to suck. It's going to tire your shoulders out holding on to the thing. I'm not going to let this thing go. That's where the leash comes in. You can be like, oh, whew, I have to let go of this thing. And you're going to get rolled over on your sup board and you're going to have to like get your butt kicked and all this stuff, but you're going to probably get up if you have power. You're probably not going to be able to stow. You're probably going to blow up a bunch. You're probably going to be frustrated, but hey, that's better than like sitting and floating and not really like getting any time riding. Get comfortable knee riding, because that is honestly, you go from on a smaller board, you go from sitting to knee ride somehow, whether you like hobble up on it or like jump up on it, and you're there for a bit, or you can do the one leg up before you're standing and like ride like that for a bit. But you want to be really comfortable in those positions and know where the balance points of your boards are. So you're like, when the power comes, you don't get pulled over and push the nose of the board down underwater and like miss your gust and then you're bummed. So big board, big foil, and relatively somewhat strong wind, and you'll probably have some success. And then from there, you kind of got to pick your poison. How soon do you want to lower your foil size? How soon do you want to lower your board size? Because a tiny responsive foil on a big board is hard. A big foil on a tiny board, I think, is a little more fun. So I would be inclined to tell people, stay big on the foil, go a little smaller on the leader to the board. And then, picking your conditions. You show up at the beach, you're like, oh man, it's not really that windy, but I'm going to like force it and go parawinging anyways. You're probably going to have like a bad session, because you're not going to get up. You're going to, that float to foil ratio may go to the bad side of the ratio. So pick your battles. You're like, hey, it's a little light. I'm going to maybe do some other wind sport. Maybe I'll kite foil. Maybe I'm just going to hang out with my kids. I don't know. Like I find I get frustrated when I try to force it. Someone's like, come on, let's go parawing. And I'm like looking at the water. I'm like, I don't think it's like good for me. I need to trust that instinct more. Yeah. So those first sessions are going to be a little bit of a shocker. So the best analogy that I can kind of figure that I've been thinking of in my mind is, imagine you're like a great skier. Let's start with skier. Great skier, ripping blacks, like ripping a mountain. And then one day you're like, sick, I'm going to learn to snowboard. The skier is like you being a winger, really good on the hydrofoil, or like a really good downwind guy. You're like, I'm a foil lord, skier, black diamond, triple guy. And you're like, sick, how hard can snowboarding be?
Yeah.
You strap on a snowboard and you catch a back edge like within 5 seconds, and you smoke your brain. You're like, oh my gosh, okay. But you're at your mountain that you know how to shred. Yeah. You're in the environment. Like, you're like, the foil's right here. I should be able, I know what I'm doing. If I could just get up on foil, I'll be fine. And I see a lot of parawingers, they set themselves up for downwinders, and then they get up on foil. They put the thing, like kind of stow it however they can. They ride really long time. Like, I had a great run. I rode 5 miles. You're like, sick. How's your stows? You're like, did it once. I don't know. And you're like, like, so there's some skills to be developed from learning. And it's important that you take those steps, and you strap a snowboard on and you're like, I want to shred this mountain. And you just can't quite do it at first. You have to relearn how to shred a little bit. And it can be really frustrating for people that are A-type. Like, I can do this. I got this. Like, and you're like, I'm just going to will this into existence. You yank on the bag a bunch. You're out there just,
yeah. You're like, oh, backflips for a session. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's just picking the right sessions, picking the right gear, if you have the ability to do so, and go, and get after it.
Yeah, look, those are all amazing tips. The first step is getting on foil. You want to be up and riding with the Parawing. Once that happens, then you're going to be either, trying to go downwind or catching waves or whatever it is. Tell us a little bit, I imagine, like you mentioned, someone coming from downwinding, all they need to do is understand the Parawing, how to get on foil, and then some of them are so good at pumping that it doesn't matter. Like, they'll just, get up, put the Parawing away, and go on their way. But people coming from winging that don't have that much experience with downwinding, reading the bumps, reading wind swell, the big challenge there in Parawinging is all that learning curve, which when you're doing sup downwinding, half the battle is getting up with the paddle. Then when you're up with the paddle, and your heart rate's at 200, you need to start learning how to read the wind swell. So for someone who has no experience downwinding, tell us a little bit about how it feels to go downwind in wind swell. What are you looking for? How do you look for energy? And how do you ride going downwind, really?
Yeah, so I think it's like a game of operating ahead of where you're operating. It's kind of unfortunate sometimes how you want to be in the moment shredding the bump you're on, but you're already thinking about when that
Mm,
energy runs out, where am I going with that next energy? And if you're not thinking like that, sometimes you miss opportunities to move across the board, I guess, if you think of it like from bump to bump to bump. I think it's pretty different here in Hood River from what I understand from ocean bump riding. The ocean
yeah.
bumps are faster.
Hmm.
They're a lot more straight line and a little bit more pumping. Here they're slow and you can turn a lot. And so when I'm reading Windswell, a lot of times I'm looking for not the biggest bump, but the one behind that one, because the one behind, they're looking for troughs. Like, it's not like I'm looking for waves. I'm looking for the hole that's going to form in the water that's going to make the energy for the bump. And you're kind of just like looking for those around the river. I
Hmm.
know that doesn't make that much sense, but so when you're riding, you're constantly scanning left and right. You're looking for like, where does that spot on the water look like it's drawing off the thing in front of it, because
Hmm.
that's where it's going to form. And so I need to move there as it's forming to like get that first burst, because the river bumps don't last that long. It's not like you can just stay in one place. In some cases you can turn really aggressively and stay in the little pocket, but sometimes you have to take the energy and go, right? Move across the board. And so you need to like understand that you need to move to the area and move to the next area and move to the next area, and be a little scrappy to kind of like link all that stuff together. And you're right, it's a really hard thing to learn in the beginning. And so what I would encourage people when they're parawing is just don't put it away. Like, honestly, it feels a lot like kite hydrofoiling when it's out with your hand on. One of the best parawingers in the planet, foiling lord, Johnny Heineken. He rides here in Hood River all the time. I have a joke with him. I bant him all the time because he for sure puts his parawing away and shreds the out of the crap out of the water. But
Yeah.
he rides with it out a lot, and he does like crazy around the world, around the wing, whipper, all kinds of crazy stuff. I always joke with him like, Johnny, you're doing it wrong. You know, you got to put it away. And he like, but that's the thing, is everyone looks at it and they're like, oh, when can I put it away? It's true, you can put it away, but then you have to be full on foil. Like, then you
Yeah.
need to switch modes. And if you're not comfortable with that switch, leave it out. Learn how to go a turn and like keep the parawing flying so it's not overshooting you and falling out of the sky, and like
Hmm.
kind of get used to how it reacts and turns, and feel with the energy underneath the foil. And you'll know when the wing goes like starts to go slack and falls out of the sky, you're like, okay, I found a moment right there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the moment to stow it even then. Maybe that's to launch it quick again, get on a bump again, and look for more of those moments, because once you put the thing away, yeah, you're kind of shit out of luck.
Yeah. And even if you're like, I don't know, if you do have that urge of, I want to pack it away and get it out of the way at this in the beginning, just hold it like leading edge in one hand, bar in the other hand, and ride however long you can like that. And, anticipate the moment that you're going to be losing that energy and be quick at that relaunch, which will, help you with your muscle memory of relaunching the Parawing. It's going to give you some skill, but it's going to maximize that time on foil without you going into the pouch and figuring all that stuff out. Because look, folding a Parawing while going downwind without knowing how to go downwind, I wouldn't even recommend it. It's just going to be, you're just going to fall within 5 seconds, honestly. So I think that's the first stage. Hold it in two hands. You're going to be able to ride a little bit. When you feel you're losing power, chuck it out. And if you do that, man, you're going to get downwinding so much quicker than someone on a paddle that is doing 5Ks, an hour downwind floating, getting 50-meter runs, and, that's their day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, unless I've traveled a couple places where downwinding is popular. It's a pain in the butt to do the shuttles. So here in Hood River, it's about as fast as you could ever imagine it, and
Yeah.
it's kind of a hassle. So yeah, Parawing is going to give you opportunity after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, to kind of harness that energy. And I think in the beginning, you're right. You don't. I think maybe in the beginning the stall stow might like, so rear line stall, you pull all the rear lines, you grab all the bridles, you cinch them up in your hand, you pull the whole thing. It leaves you with this like parachute that can kind of catch the wind. It's a little annoying, You have the bar in the other hand, but you have no bridles hanging really.
Yeah.
You can shred with it in two hands. You can kind of deal with it. It's annoying. And when you throw that out, it usually will redeploy. Sometimes the wingtips will get pinched and stuff, but that's a really easy way to kind of manage that. I almost always stow on the A lines. I pull in A lines. I feel like that gives me better control of the leading edge and the surface of the wing, so then I can deal with that. However, when you pull the A lines in, you have A lines in one hand at the wing because you've collapsed the wing. You have bar in the other hand. All the bridles are hanging in Tangletown. So there is some need to either wrap all that up with a bear hug or like deal with that. Otherwise, when you're shredding, when you go across the wind, those bridles can blow into you and get stuck on your leg, your coil leg leash, or your like there's a numerous things they can get stuck on. So I think in the beginning, the rear line stall, cinch everything up, you're like good to go. I, again, like I said, A line, and then I put the A lines on my one finger, so I have my wing and bar in one hand, and then I'll like bear hug all this stuff and just kind of lasso it up. I can't really explain more than like kind of twirl it up like a pasta, like with the fork. And then I just hold it in my hand. I shred like that a lot because look, I ride the hatchery. I have a 1-year-old. I don't always have time to like show up and hope that the sprinter van's going upwind to tunnel 4 to like get in the thing, to like walk down at tunnel 4, walk on the rocks, paddle out through the seaweed. It's way faster for me to park pole position at the hatchery, jump off those rocks in like 10 minutes. I'm in the water and do a bunch of laps just right there in front. If I want to like go for a voyage, I'll go up past Swell City, which is like 2 miles, maybe not even. And I'll just do that lap continuously because it's way more efficient. And I was a kiteboarder. I like going upwind. I don't mind the like lean into the wind, go fast. It's so fun when you're lit to hook in on a fast foil and just be like super on leaning as this tiny little freaking, it's so fun.
And you're always cheating in, cheating out, finding that optimal upwind feeling. Fun. And that's the other thing. I think, talking about steps of that evolution, getting on foil, the second thing is learning how to stay upwind. And the Parawing does, give you a lot of power. And I remember in the beginning, some moments where I was just picking up speed and you just explode, right? Is there anything that you can think of that would help people in that moment? Because I hear that from time to time, and I share my experience with it. That could help them get rid of that power and slow down, which is the hardest thing to do when you're on full beans going downwind and you're just increasing speed and you're going to explode. What do people do in that kind of critical situation to like maybe have a little bit of a session saver and not eat it?
So if we're in the beginner phase, we're not going to be looking to like pull A lines and stow the wing really fast and like bleed some speed and then throw the thing back out. And like, so that's kind of off the table unless you're like really feeling advanced. I would say turn downwind, like let off your edge if you're edging at all, relieve that pressure and like give up some ground. And you're going to like kind of bleed off some of that speed.
Yeah.
Right. So that's probably pretty good. And then the, final thing that I can think of, and this is going to sound like a cop-out, is like get yourself a wing that can be depowered. Like there are some on the market that are made to be more of a downwind vehicle, pull you up and get you going, lower aspect, a little bit more powerful. And there are some that are a little bit more bladey and are made to like kind of drive you upwind. They may lack a little get up and go horsepower, but they might excel in other ways. So if you are getting blown up and when you relieve your rear line tension, aka fly the bar kind of all on A's, so like relieve, and your wing is just like collapsing into a bag, you're either ridiculously overpowered for your setup and you need to readjust and downsize on your wing and work on your water start technique so you can get up in more efficient wind with the more efficient size, or try to get yourself a better Parawing.
Well, let's talk about that because we got a lot of option in the market right now, and AWSI is just around the corner, so we're gonna have another 30% of newcomers to the sport like launching their gear. What kind of Parawings have you ridden so far? And give us a little bit of your impression on them. Good, bad, ugly, whatever you want.
Yeah, so I've ridden the BRM version 1s. I use the BRM version 2. Kanaha, I think, is the one that is like the short line set and goes upwind really easy.
The Kanaha is like, they're kind of upwind model, and then there's the Ka, which is just super short lines.
Oh, my fault. It's the Ka'a, right?
Okay.
The Kanaha is their double surface one, right? Or
that's the
Paia. I can't keep it. I can't. I go to Maui a lot. I can't keep all the town names straight. So then I've also ridden some prototypes from various brands, which are some are shockers, some are really great. So that's, as you're working in development, you have to set aside your feelings of like, this is really shitty, and look at the light at the end of the tunnel. If you've been to the hatchery, like you basically can fly anybody's Parawing on the road in front of the traffic. So I've had my hands on a fair amount of wings, the Frigate from F1, the Flow D, the all the BRM stuff, let's see, the Ozone stuff, some random prototype stuff. God, what are some other good ones? There's a lot of there's becoming a lot better subset of wings, because they realized the demand is basically range, right? So like you need something that can be reliably flown essentially on the A's, or the whatever the top cluster is, so that when you relieve the pressure off the wing, it doesn't turn into a giant bag and the leading edge has no structure. Maybe in a place where it's light wind and it's a lake in Germany, and you're just going to get up and like sail on your giant SUP board, and you need grunt. You don't really care about angle. That makes sense. Here in Hood River, when it's blowing 20 to 35 and you're like holding on for dear life and you're going upwind on your 2, you want those things to be solid, right? Like sometimes I can ride my 1.7 POW, which is like insane. It's so fun. And you need them to just be rock solid. The Fly Surfer POW is really good. The Ozone is really good in that phase. The Frigate was really good in that phase. The Flow D was really good. I think right out of the gate, it had some downsides, but like nothing really to negate at the time, because it was the only one that was really stable across the leading edge. So that's a really good indication that like the earliest one that was like, hey, my leading edge is rock solid, and people just flocked right to it, right? Because it's a sport of the internet. Look, like the information is spread through your influencers, through your beach heroes, through your forums. It's not take your word for it from the brand. I mean, in some cases, maybe. I mean, look at Greg. He's like personally creating the market, right? He's like educating people. You look at like Matt Nuzzo at Reel, he's doing educational, instructional pieces. We're talking here about how to get into parawinging, because we want more people to get into it. And so as the demand for the gear increases, hopefully it just gets easier.
Yeah. And they are getting so much better, man. Like you could see, the brands that left their launches a little bit late, they learned so much from those initial Parawings. And now if you don't have that inherent stability in the Parawing, you're not even in the market, right? What are some of the things that you look for in a Parawing when you're like, okay, I'm going to maybe buy one? What are the things that I want to consider?
Am I able to fly it on the beach before I buy it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Am I able to use it in the water before I buy it?
Depends on the shop you have around you. I think Big Winds is great like that. They have people like you and everybody just around that's like, yep, take it, man, have a go, and then you make your decision.
If you're just able to fly it on the beach, I think that's a different subset than if you can take it in the water. But on the beach, you're looking for easy of control, and not just control when you have the rears pulled in, but like control of the wing when you have the rears let out. So essentially flying it on the A's, you still want to have some turning ability during that phase. That still gives you control when you're riding depowered. You don't want it to just be drifting off into nowhere. You would like to check whether when you relieve the rear line tension, if it's going to tuck, when and where and how much tension do you need to keep on the wing in order to keep it flying progressively. You're probably going to
just explain that a little bit, because when you say tuck, what is the Parawing doing? Because these people don't know anything, right? True. And I feel like if someone is a beginner and they're flying it, they won't necessarily know how to fly it that well. So how can they actually gauge that, it's the Parawing and not them?
Yeah, so tuck, or also called a collapse, is a type of airflow disruption that can cause the structure of the wing to have more pressure on the top side than the underside. Therefore, the bridles aren't supporting the structure. It's a function of let's be honest, ram air single skin technology, like ram airs are less susceptible to it because they have a pressurized internal.
The
But
double skin,
yeah, like a leading edge inflatable, they can be backwinded and pushed down. You can feel them; they push against you. Kites will fall out of the sky in some cases. Parawings are just more susceptible to that because they don't have a rigid structure, right? So, the most important thing in it is like the full frontal. The wingtip collapses can happen when you're depowered. That's not gonna like make things too disrupted. It's gonna be annoying, but it's rideable. You can deal with it. But if we're letting go of the rears, so if this is the bar, right? This is the A's, this is the rears. So this would be powering up the wing, and this would be depowering the wing. If I'm depowering the wing like this, and I'm getting the leading edge of the Parawing is like what I call tucking or collapsing.
Yeah.
In a full frontal collapse.
And you notice it goes and it re-engages, it disengages, and then it catches wind again. And so it feels like a collapse. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is technically called a frontal collapse when you get into paragliding. If you're responsible, you should do a thing called SIV, which is simulated fucking terrible situations. So you go towed like 5,000 feet over a lake, and you like collapse your paraglider and make it take frontals and all that kind of stuff. So you get pretty comfortable with the collapsing structures while you're thousands of feet in the air. It's kind of crazy. But it's not generally that good for airflow. So you want to check on your wing, like, hey, is it going to do that? So that's pretty easy on the beach. You just basically let the rears out, you hold it by the A's, you see what happens to the structure of the wing. You can kind of like pump it, I guess. That doesn't really tell you that much. A wing that pumps good feels more solid in between the pumps and doesn't slip backwards, like backstall, like slowly backstall into the wind. It'll just kind of sit and like reset itself and itself and kind of like it's breathing. So you can like pull on that and like be like, yeah, that's okay. But there's not much you can do on the water. You can check the line set. Hey, for me, can I get it in one span, like that's one arm span, or do I have to like go up, like do the lasso? So if you're checking your Parawing, you can check the line set length for you. Some are going to be longer to get more advantage in wind, upwind, and some are going to be shorter for stowability and compactness. So for you, you might want a really compact bridle if you're a small person, or you might not be so off it if your wing can get you up more if it's a little bit longer. I'm assuming people will innovate on this. They've already seen it on the internet, people making like 4-in-1 doublers and like all kinds of weird stuff. So who knows what's going to happen with the whole like bridle set situation. But that's kind of what you can check. If you can get it in the water, you're going to want to check like ride up wind, lean into the thing and depower it. Basically, how's the stability? That's the number one thing that you want in your wing. Other than that, most of the bags work.
They do, man. They do. And you will, like, depending on what Parawing you buy, they all have pros and cons when compared to each other. You will learn how to pack down a Parawing with long lines. You will learn how to go upwind with a Parawing that's super low end and short lines as well. Like, it's all a compromise, and it really depends on that long game if you want to play it that way. Like, what ultimately do I want to do with this Parawing? Am I going to stop at my, local spot and want to do laps? Possibly, a Parawing that goes upwind is really important to you versus someone who's like, I'm a downwinder, I'm still shuttling with my crew, I love them, and that's a completely different Parawing.
There'll be heaps of closeout wings that can get you up and take you on downwinder soon. Oh, yeah. Like when it's only the leading edge upwind stability is the number one thing that makes a great wing. All the ones that were produced that kind of ruffle on the leading edge are just going to go straight to the bargain bin, and like the downwind people can eat those up all they want. Like that's unfortunately, but that's just how it's going to go.
Yeah, you could pick something secondhand pretty cheap now if you're in that,
Yeah, if you want a literal trash bag, you can get one.
What is it for you, man? What kind of Parawing do you like? If you're going to think about what are the characteristics that you want a Parawing to have? What are you looking for when you're riding?
Yeah, so I think two really important ones that are maybe overlooked is bar pressure / bar balance. So like, how do I have to hold your bar? How does my hand interact with the pigtails and or the ergonomics of the bar? What does the grip feel like? And how spaced out can my hands be versus distribution? How much can I lean on what hand? I don't ride in a harness line 100% of the time. I use a different system that I can put on any Parawing I want, but I like to evaluate and like feel what wings are I like them to be kind of like light in feel so I can go upwind on them. They're not ripping my arms off. I have to ride them so depowered that I'm just like jammed up against the leader line and like it's hurting my hand. Honestly, I like the nub on the top of the BRM wings, like that little like hold it above the A, split it in your hands.
Makes sense.
I think it's really critical for when I'm riding upwind. It's not for this hand, like a trigger. It's actually for my front hand. And I like to put the A's like here, and these sit on top of the A's, so I can kind of like depower and steer. So I really like bar feel, and bar ergonomics are really important. It's like your office space. I like wings that are stable, easy to fly. And I like wings that can go upwind because I'm kind of an upwind. I like going upwind. I'll go downwind, no problem. Don't worry about that. But I like riding upwind. So a wing that can rocket upwind is really helpful. And I ride between all the protos and stuff that I'm doing, I ride the POW when it's really windy. I have a 1.7 POW. And other than that, I'm on the Pocket Rocket because it just rips upwind.
Yeah.
And it's got a really soft bar feel. So when you're holding on to it, I hate to say you don't feel powered, because people I think sometimes equate that to like, hey, I'm out here just floating. I can't get up. There's no power in this thing. They do lack maybe a little bit of low end in the raw downwind get up. You have to be a little more efficient. They pump so well, better than a lot of the other wings, in my opinion. And so you can pump and make speed. You can get up and you can drive upwind. The only thing that's yet to be figured out is who's going to win the durability. Yeah. So like we have Aqua Dynamics, Sri Lanka building a lot of the the ones for some brands. We have Ozone obviously has their own factory. I think Fly Surfers made in their own factory, so they have different quality controls. And then like look, like you're a downwind light wind guy, you're riding it in like 14 knots. I'm a 205 pound. I ride a 65 liter board in 20 to 40 in the gorge. I'm loading this thing the F up. I know line stretch. I know canopy bags out. How long are these things going to last? Like for a rider who's putting them through their paces day in and day out, and who's going to win the longevity game? Already I've seen various brands, the leading edge nylons, like start to deform, and it depends on where they deform. They can cause problems. Do they deform in the wingtips? Stuff can get really bad. And so you're looking at stuff like that. You know, paragliders typically that are made, these are Parawings, paragliders, USV. Dude, they're stored in immaculate dry conditions. They never get wet. They never see the sun. The leading edges never touch the ground because your life depends on these things. Like, dude, drag them across the asphalt.
They get
like
so trashed.
Worked. Yeah. So what's longevity? Like, how long are these gonna? Am I gonna want to buy is the used market exists? Do I want to buy used Parawings? I don't know.
I don't know. I think right now, like longevity is something that the brands are going to figure out. I think now, in a year's time, again, you know, even the V2s, they will be obsolete. So I think having a season in them, I think it's all they're kind of not designed for, but I think now you're going to see like, you know, wear and tear here.
That's great for right now. That happened in Wayne, that happened in kiteboarding when bridles got invented. That's great for right now. But think 4 years in the future, they're all going to be like really good. Then how do you keep selling them? Like, that they're, you know, like they're going to bag out. Is that how you keep selling them? You like know they're going to degrade in quality, or like when the feature set gets so perfect and the bar, when you have justified a molded bar and like all this like ergonomic stuff and all these stow systems and all this packability, and it like integrates in with your 4-to-1 release and it's like super dialed. Yeah. Like, why keep buying one every year? So right now it works because there's an invention every year. They're getting better. I saw this happen in kiteboarding with bridles. Like every year you definitely wanted to buy a new kite every year because like the safety systems are getting better. The depower is getting better. The performance is getting better. Nowadays, you can make a kite last a couple years for sure. They're really good, especially if you buy like a sick Alula kite, dude. You're on for a bit. Yeah. And I think winging is getting to that spot too, like, right? Like when it first started, there was lots of reason to buy a new wing. They got better. Handles got better. All of a sudden, everyone's got hard handles. Now people got booms. It's like getting better and better and better. That's slowing down a little bit. I feel like people are like, oh, my top of the line 2025 wing, I don't know if I need to buy a 2026 wing because mine is a Lula, Schmeglula one is super amazing. Like, So you got to be careful that the Parawing doesn't fall into the same trap
Yeah.
of like stabilize out, and then there's like only 2 people selling them basically.
What do you feel we're still missing in terms of gear? And I'm thinking everything from control systems, safety equipment, stowing equipment. I think there's a lot to explore still. Like, what do you feel like, this still sucks balls?
Yeah, so I think when you I don't ride big Parawings that often. I just go regular winging when it's light. So like I don't deal with my line sets are super long. I want
Mm-hmm.
like the thing, but I think the line set thing is going to be a sticking point for people. They want short line sets or an ability to stow those lines in an efficient and calmly manner,
Yeah.
so that they don't end up with tangles. So whether that's like a retraction sleeve or like a tube that you suck it into, or like I don't know, there'll be innovation in this making stowing easier and less hassle free. Someone's going to come up with a great system for something. So that's lacking right now. I think, honestly, the bars,
They're pretty raw, aren't they? I think Ozone has something that resembles a kite bar, but everything else is just like
they have bar ends that make it nice to hold on to, and they have some
Duotone
ergonomic
looks
shaping.
good. Their bar
The
looks
Duotone
good.
one is okay. It's a little clunky, but it's like comfortable in your hand. The BRM ones have some features, but they're still a little like EVA on tube.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some need for some innovation there, whether it's ergonomic shaping or because like look, the only person right now that's doing a curve bar is Fly Surfer.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said to the ergonomics and bridle balancing on a bar that has a slight curve to it.
Do you like it?
If you're holding at the top all the time, the sensitivity of the brakes you're holding it here when the brakes curve in,
Yeah.
right away from you, you're holding on A's a lot of time anyways, right? So you're way up at the top. It just gives you like more control. And if you look at all Revolution, like all of those weird kites that we talked about that I learned on, none of them fly on a flat bar. Like So they all have that like slight curve in. And so I think there's something to be said about a kite that ultimately you're resting on your fingers, right? Like the A's are up here, you're kind of like there. There's not a lot right now where you're balanced, where you're just like on both hands, like really evenly balanced. You're kind of like up on those fronts. So why not have a little
sometimes
ergonomics
even
on the bar?
like on the lines? I see a lot of people just like they don't have any real estate in their bar anymore, and just holding on to the A's and then their backhand on the bar, which is not great.
I think there could be some. Sounds messy, but maybe some pigtail swaps / knot swaps on some 100%. Of the bridle lines, much like how you set your kite up for different tuning.
100%.
Like I think something like that could be integrated into them.
So tell us the benefit of that, because I think for someone who's trying to understand what does that give me, what benefit would that give you if you're like wanting maybe some longer lines or some shorter lines depending on the day?
Let's say maybe it could like dull out your I wouldn't think longer or shorter line sets. That's kind of like not. I'm thinking more like I have a really responsive tiny Parawing, a 1.7. It's really responsive. It's tiny. Maybe there's a way I could make it less responsive by changing the tension on the rear lines or changing a cluster of bridles. So essentially like undoing a lark's head and like moving it like this far on the thing and like changing a little bit the tuning of the Parawing. I think there could also be like a wrap the A's around the bar or sheet in a little bit, so to like a more robust D-power system.
Yeah.
I hate to put a cleat and all that shit on there, but like someone's going to do something like that. So I think those are the spaces that need some looking after. I think other than that, it's the durability. It's like who's going to last, who's going to like have them working. The double skin game, like you see that people working on the double skins, that's a whole nother thing that's happening as well. So it's just like an arms race yet again, like I don't know what the end goal would be.
Tell us a little bit about your harness line kind of connection. You said you have a bespoke or something that you put together to.
So Jim Stringfellow, he's a guy in the gorge. He makes the adapters for a lot of hydrofoils. he like CNC stringy is like stringy foils. So you can put any foil on any mast. He was doing it for like no limits and all that kind of stuff. He's a maker and he got into parawinging originally, and he was like, dude, you just got to ride with a hook. And I was always like, okay, what are you talking about? And then I was dealing with the harness line woes of like, I want a harness line. I keep forgetting it. It's got on this Parawing. I need to put it on this Parawing. So I just stopped putting them on my Parawing and I just wear it on my stash belt. It's essentially like, it is like a little slider that sits on my webbing. You could just use a D-ring or whatever. It's like a piece of Dyneema line that's like maybe this long. And then
it has stretchy or fixed?
No, fixed.
Okay.
And then it has a 3D printer CNC'd. I think it's CNC'd plastic hook that like fits over my bar, but is not so hooked around that it's like, that it's not going to get like stuck on my bar. It's kind of pretty easy to like release off from the bar like that. And I use that because I can hook it on anywhere on any bar at any point. I can put it anywhere on the bar, lower or higher, changes the balance. And it like alleviates the like, I don't know, I was having a hard time with harness lines. I guess I didn't have a rigid fixed harness line. I think that's the best, is like a full rigid fixed one that you can just like hook right in.
But then when you're stowing it, it's another tangle hazard, isn't it, on the bar?
So so, and I don't like, look, I had like kiteboarding, I had crap on my bar all the time. I want a clean bar. I don't like crap on my bar.
I don't even like the B lines on the bar. I
agree. So like whether people are pushing those off with bridges like the BRMs or people are eliminating them by clustering things or something, I think Bs are that triple set bar is a bit annoying. I think that's gonna kind of go away. But yeah, so I'm using it's like, I joke, it's an umbilical cord. Yeah. Because you just like hook in. The one downside, there are two downsides. If you leave it hanging out, sometimes it can get caught on your Parawing bridle lines when you have it in your hand. Like if you're only hand stowing. And so then sometimes it can mess with your redeploy. It gets in the mix a little bit. And then two, you have to pull in the bar and have your hand on the hook. So you have to like fly the Parawing one-handed to hook in. So some people might not like that as well. So there's kind of two sides to it. I think it's lower impact and lower hassle, and I prefer it. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. If I were to use a harness line, I would use that one as well. I tend to go unhooked all the time, and I got used to the feeling of riding unhooked, which coming from kiteboarding and doing wake style, back in the day as well. It brings me back to something that's not that, alien, and it's not that bad. And it's tiring. Like I'll tell you, those 40 days in the gorge on a 2.5, I was tired, but I just can't deal with hooking in. And on a day like that, I don't even know if I want to be hooked in 40 knots. I like just to not have that and that pull. But it's a very personal thing. Yeah.
I agree. I think people have all kinds of situations that they can integrate in. And I just feel like for me, the hook on my harnesses solves 1,000 problems for me and is not detracting yet. Maybe one day I'll have a terrible situation where I'm like, I'm never using the hook again. But for now, I'm pretty sold on the hook. It's working really great.
Yeah, I'll give that a go. I haven't tried that one, but I think it's probably one of the better solutions to actually have something connect to the bar rather than have something on the bar. Dude, what do you think when we think about the evolution of sports and we've seen, kiteboarding being cannibalized by winging because of the ease of getting into the sport. People are scared of lines, and, a lot of people migrated to winging. Now winging is at risk with parawinging. How do you see the market kind of evolving from a user base kind of point of view?
So I don't think that parawinging will cannibalize winging because it's certainly harder to make happen. I've heard some rumors that like some people are learning it quicker, like never evers. They can like kite foil and it's more like a kite and you can figure it out. I think if you have foil skills, you can figure it out.
Yeah.
The same way but how you develop those foil skills is critical. So like, are you a kite foiler? Are you a boat foiler? Are you a prone foiler? Are you a downwind foiler? Or are you a winger? All of those are going to have onboarding ramps into this sport because you know how to foil. It's learning how to use the new structure and maybe changing your gear a little bit so that you can take advantage of the Parawing. Will it cannibalize winging? there's no way, because you could not replace all the wingers with parawingers and expect that they're going to like be able to onboard that easy. Winging, modern day winging with the larger mid-length board equipment, big foils, dude, I won't say it's easy, because it's not easy for some people, and I teach beginner wing camps and stuff. Like, I understand it's not easy, but it's a great way to get on the foil. And then so I don't think parawinging really steals from that. I see at spots where you have advanced riding, either wave riding or potentially like the hatchery situation, you're going to see a split of at least a third of the people are going to be doing the parawinging, because it makes sense for when you have foil obsessed people, you're going to steal people from that, because they just want to be on the foil. They don't care how they get on the foil. They want to e-foil. They want to sup. That, like, whatever scratches that the flow state itch that they're seeking, the easiest way to get that is how they're going to do it. The crazy thing that sucks about flow state is it takes increasingly more of things to keep you in the flow state. That's why I probably crashed into the ground. That's why I, like, people keep pushing themselves. You're talking about, why do people get into paragliding? It's because they're seeking this brain phase where it's actually kind of beautiful. Your frontal cortex actually gets regulated. Your the sense of yourself goes away. It's why some people say when they're like in a barrel and it's super trippy, they became one with the wave. It is heightened in risk. So the more risk on the line, the more quickly it's getting into that. That could be life risk, or that could be like, I'm sure musicians tap into this, because the risk is like to be embarrassed, to be booed off stage, to fail, right? So this brain state that you're in is this disassociation of yourself, this hyper focus on what's going on, this disassociation with time, this like sense of awe, this like, it's a beautiful, blissful state. And humans have been using this in hunting and gathering and communications and community for thousands and thousands of years. They just didn't really understand what it was going on. And now we can just like rig up the old parawing, get the freaking foil out, tap into the main line, let me in on this stuff.
The foil
just like vibing, because it when you're hunting those wind swells, you're operating in the future. You're not really living in the now. There's risk of you falling off the foil. It's annoying. You want to keep shredding. There's like, there's so many things that get you to that like cerebral level. And it's just a beautiful, blissful time to be a human involved in wind and water sports. It's fabulous.
Dude, I resonate with that so much. And I mean, my next question was going to be, why should people start parawinging? I think it's that it'll put you in that state very quickly. And for me personally, when I'm downwinding, I experience that in a way that is very hard to experience on a foil with any other discipline, because you're doing that, but you're doing that for a long period of time. The Rufus run, you're doing some long, here we have like 30-kilometer runs. Man, when I get back to shore from a 30K run, I have to really go back and put the pieces together of what happened in that run, because it was so long. Conditions changed, the bumps changed along the way, and you cannot get that from any other foiling discipline other than downwinding, those long surfy sessions. So
yeah, it's more of an expedition or exploration than it is a session. At that point, it starts to become voyages.
Yeah, it is.
And there's kind of a different flow in that, and I think that's what the downwind sup people seek, is this sense of flow and voyage, and it's a little bit different situation, but it's all rad. I just encourage people, whether you get into parawinging via downwind or wing foiling, give it a try. It's really great. It lowers your imprint in your travel. You have to bring less stuff, and it's pretty rad. If you think your conditions are good for it, I wouldn't do it if you're in light wind or shallow water or no swell. But if you have places that seem like, hey, this might be working for me, I would highly encourage some time in the sport, because it's really fabulous. And if you're not foiling yet, you should definitely be foiling, because foiling is the best.
Oh yeah. And if you do begin to foil, Hood River is definitely one of the most unique places I've ever been to foil. Just the landscape. I was just in awe. I was just looking around, and a lot of people, oh, look at the bumps, and I'm like, man, look at this place. This is a river. Like, you've got beautiful forest, then you go to Rufus, it's all like deserty and just airy, and just like, it looks like you're in Mars. And then you have the bumps that are incredible. They're big, they're slow, they're rippable. I've never seen a place like that. I'll definitely go back. Very unique spot for riding. I had to tweak my gear a little bit to make it work. And first time that I try to get up on the Parawing, like, oh, this feels a little different. You know, fresh water feels very different than salt water. And once you get into gear there, then you're like, oh my God, it's the most rippable place I've been to.
Yeah, it's a really special place. It's been a special place for thousands of years. The Native Americans knew it was special. The first settlers that came here knew it was special. Lewis and Clark knew it was special. Like all the people that have come to this place, they find a happy medium. It's a hard place to make work. It's cold in the winters. It's hot in the summers, but it's windy as shit.
Yep.
So it's super fun. And yeah, the conditions are super great they were great for windsurfing. They're super fun for kiteboarding. I wouldn't say it's a world-class kiteboarding destination, but then enter winging, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is pretty world-class. And then enter downwind sup, you're like, oh, okay, this is pretty good. The bumps are sick and the shuttles are super short and direct. And then the Parawing comes and you're like, is it good in Hood River? You're like, yeah, of course, it's the best in Hood River. I'm sure there's other places that are really good. I'm sure Ka'a, Maui is probably pretty fabulous. I am a little nervous about big waves and Parawing and like sitting and being like, come on, I gotta get up. And you're like light wind, maybe strong wind, big waves make sense. But like, so there's no seaweed, there's no sharks, there's no reef, there's no it's pretty hard to be, I gotta be honest with you. I think the only downside is it can be a tricky spot for people to kind of dial in and figure out with their gear. If they're used to big ocean bumps, it's a little bit different. But other than that, finding parking.
Get to the hatch early and
go to the hatch early.
Brandon, dude, thanks for your time. And is there anything else you want to talk about? Let us know. I mean, I want to put the link up to the documentary here as well. Yep. I think, people will learn so much from your experience, man. And thanks for doing that as well. Like a very personal part of your life, difficult part of your life that you're, sharing there with the community to just let people know that, everybody has those nightmare moments, but we can all get out of them. And you have no idea. Like I follow that journey from a little bit of a distance, but I just admire you for your resilience, man. That was a tough part of your life, and here you are ripping on the Parawing, back to enjoying yourself on the water, which is incredible.
Yeah, I guess a couple things that I can leave people with is like the number one thing that I want to try to do is inspire people to make great decisions for themselves as a separate of the brain injury. But like wind sports changed my life. Everything good that happened in my life, my wife, the place where I live, my family, everything has blown into my life by the wind. So like expanding that and inspiring and encouraging people to get in is something that I feel I have to share because it changed my life in such a positive way. So any way that I can do that, I'm super happy. And then the second thing is, the biggest takeaway that I can take away from my accident, there are two big takeaways. One, when things get hard, man, it's really rough, and that can happen whether you're trying to learn to parawing or you have a terrible accident, or man, life can happen in so many different ways. Brain injuries happen from car accidents, not just sports accidents, and you can get in these situations, and mental health as well in general, and just like huge. It's not really talked about as much, and now it is in surfing and action sports, and like things are moving in the right directions, but no one should have to struggle alone. These things are so crazy and so difficult. But the best way that you can kind of face these challenges is know that it's like a big mountain. Getting through these things is like crazy, and if you look at how far you have to go to get to the top of the mountain, it's so overwhelming and so like it's just demoralizing, and you just want to sit down and say, I can't climb this mountain. It's so big, there's no way. I have to like get on this glacier, and I have to go to the forest, and I have to like do, and there's so many problems and so many things that you just like you're overwhelmed. But if you can just kind of just look down and realize that all you have to do is take one step. You just have to take a lot of little one steps, and sit back and enjoy the view and enjoy the hike and enjoy the whole adventure. Because when you get to the top, you're going to get to like snowboard down, which is going to be super fun. And there's going to be another mountain on the end of that mountain that you got to climb up and deal with that one. And that's life, man. It's just a series of mountains. So if you can enjoy the beauty of the mountain climb and you can realize that it just like to achieve impossible goals, whether that's learn a crazy new trick, learn how to tack, learn how to stow your Parawing, get up on the water, the numerous things that can blow into your life, one step at a time, and just take it as you can take it. And the no amount, this really resonated with me, so I'll share this last piece, is no amount of regret changes the past. No amount of anxiety or worry changes the future. But any amount of gratitude changes the now. And that's all you really have. So if you can just be grateful for what you have and just be in the moment, man, it's just get in the flow state and just get after it.
Dude, I got goosebumps. Thank you for that inspiration. And yeah, thank you for sharing everything. You're a legend, bro.
Dude,
and you. I can't wait to see you again in Hood.
Yeah, don't stay away too long. I know everyone who's listening to this, it's rainy and gross and like it's cold and you don't want to be here. There's seaweed everywhere and like there's never any parking. Everyone's grumpy and it rains all the time and it's gross. Don't ever come. You don't want to come.
Let's leave it with that.
There's no nothing.
Thanks for your time, man. Go enjoy your day, your beautiful family, and we'll talk soon, brother.
Hey.